Hey, you're listening to The Good Pod Guide with me, Lauren Windle. I'm going to give you the lowdown on some of the biggest podcasts, as well as some hidden gems to help you find your next great listen. Guys, today I'm still drinking out of my Jackie Weaver mug of Jackie Weaver, You Have No Authority Here. And I feel like I'm just really clinging on to something that's died a death. But also I'm aware that, the popular What a Sad Little Life, Jane thing from Come Dine With Me, that was funny at the time. And then no one talked about it for years. And then suddenly it came back and was the biggest thing ever. So I'm predicting a similar revival of Jackie Weaver. So much like 70s bell bottoms, I'm going to hang on to this cup so that in 5 to 7 years, it'll be really funny and kitsch again. That's my intention. Anyway, today's podcast is Clash of the Titles. This is a movie podcast. It's hosted by 3 people who pit these films against each other, and each film pairing has a similar theme. And then they establish which of the 2 films is best. The common threads between the 2 films involved in the battle could be something like both films have talking animals, or it's a remake versus an original, or it's like a natural disaster film. So examples of clashes include When Harry Met Sally versus While You Were Sleeping, Scream versus Cabin in the Woods, Clue versus Knives Out, etc., etc., etc. It's presented by Vicky Crompton, Chris Tilley, and Alex Zane. Who remembers Alex Zane? I haven't thought about Alex Zane since the last time I watched an episode of RootTube 12 years ago. Also, as I was researching for this, I had one of those vague memories that Alex Zane used to date Alexa Chung. And on Googling it, that turns out to be correct. So I'm not sure exactly what year that was, but my guess would be 2009, 2011. Either way, that was a long time ago, and it makes me feel a little old. So they chuck in some great movie trivia to this podcast. Like, for example, did you know that the writer and the director of The Cabin in the Woods met when they worked together on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and they wrote the whole thing in just 3 days? Also, did you know that the original villain from the first Mad Max film reprised his role in Mad Max Fury Road that was out a few years ago, albeit with a massive mask over his face? And I love that kind of trivia. When I was in New York, I went to see Aladdin on Broadway. I went to the 2 p.m. matinee on a Saturday, so I was the only person there without a child. But that's just another example of the specific brand of sad that I have in my life. But the guy who was playing Jafar was the actual guy who voiced Jafar in the Disney film. And every time he opened his mouth, it was like being transported back to my childhood. So I have a lot of time for that. There are 133 episodes so far of this podcast. Each clash is covered over 2 episodes, so they really go for it in terms of the depth. One thing that Felix on the Good Pod Guide team pointed out, which is actually so true and quite rare with these sort of comedy podcasts, is that the presenters give each other the time to speak. It doesn't feel these arrogant kind of funny guys jumping over each other, scrabbling for airtime. It's smooth without those interruptions, so it's actually not sort of stressful to listen to like some others can be. If you're a film buff, this is great. It's in-depth, it's funny, it's intelligent. Go for it. In the next episode, I reveal that I know far too much about Charles Manson to be healthy as we discuss podcast Young Charlie. For more info on the Good Pod Guide, check out the show notes. Also, subscribe, and leave a positive review. It helps us to beat the evil algorithm.